Right, man. Oh shit! I didn't do the mic. Can y'all hear me? I don't even know what's what. Am I early? I saw that the time didn't look right. No, it's 7:02. I don't think it's early. I just think I put the time prep, man. Listen, technology is not our friend. Or it could be my lack of attention to detail. Either way, I have to do this. The mic thing is, I forgot to do the mic thing. Anyway, welcome to the BroDiallo broadcast. Okay. Okay, loud and clear. All right, let's jump in with both feet. We can't be long, but we must be strong. God damn it. Anyway, first let me turn down the ambience. Let me take this scrolling, my begging banner off the bottom. Begging banner on the bottom. Hey y'all, how was your holiday? And for you who are strong enough to resist the allure of the white man's holidays, how did you enjoy your sense of superiority? Your sense of righteousness. I hope it was fulfilling. But anyway, wow, I'm shiny. I have to tell y'all something. You know, if you got one of them things, are you coming through, James? I thought you said you was coming through, but I don't know. I need one of them sugar testers. I need one of them finger pricks, man. I didn't ate like a whole, not a whole, but a good quarter cheese cobbler all by myself over the weekend. My wonderful sister-in-law, who's also a vegan, she makes a vegan peach cobbler. And my son, he usually, you know, eats half and I eat half because we the cobbler gobblers. But he don't be here like he used to. He don't come around like he used to. You know how kids are. You give them all your love and all your resources, give them your life, and then they abscond on you. They grow up and go out into the world and forget you exist. So anyway, I had a whole vegan peach cobbler. I had a whole vegan peach cobbler available to me, and how do I do this? Oh, okay. And I've been eating it, and I wasn't paying attention. In fact, like several minutes before I got on the show, I hold on, James. I had finished another slice, and then I went down to look at the cobbler, and it was almost gone. And I didn't have nobody to yell at. What? Sorry. And so anyway, I need to test my sugar. All that to say, I need to test my blood sugar because I'm nervous now. See, I'm already kind of like blacking out and not knowing what I'm saying. There you are. So yeah, come through, James, and help me out because I'm not all here. I'm having my sugar. My sugar. Yeah, at the mirror, drink some black tea. What does that do? I just need a finger stick. See how my sugars are. This is bad. But you know what I tell myself? It's once a year. She only make me a vegan cobbler once a year. So hey, I go off. But yeah, I'm a little afraid. I know my insulin levels are off the chain, man.
What's wrong with you, bro?
I ate almost a whole peach cobbler in 2 days. And you know, my great grandmother Genevieve Bowie used to make peach cobblers from scratch. And I became vegan in 1992. So between 1992 all the way up to the 2000 and change, I didn't have no peach cobbler. And then we moved here around 2010. So between like 92 and 2010, I had never had a cobbler, peach cobbler. And then my sister-in-law, she makes them. And she made me a vegan peach cobbler one season, and she makes once a year. And this year I just ate the whole thing. So black tea will bring my sugar down. So I might say some things I don't have to say. But anyway, how was your holiday? Did you sell out and celebrate this white man holiday?
Never, but I ate like a pig though. I ate everything in sight.
You did. Yes, you did.
What I was supposed to do? Starve? Shit, the food was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to fast on Thanksgiving.
And hey, you know what? That's another way of looking at it. But you know, I really I fast every day anyway. I fast every day for like
when you sleep.
For no, not only
and then
that.
You break the fast in the morning.
No, but I do fast about 14 hours a day, 16 hours, you know.
Okay.
For the most part.
So anyway, that's what. Listen, I appreciate loopholes. So if you can get me to celebrate the white man's holidays and you can give me a loophole, I'll take it. So the loophole is I'm just eating because of the food is there. I ain't celebrating no Thanksgiving.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. The food was there and I ate it.
That's what. So I didn't sell out for vegan cobbler. I didn't compromise my principles for vegan cobbler. It's really my sister-in-law's fault for putting it in front of me. If she had put it in front of me on a day that wasn't a white man's holiday, I wouldn't have even had an issue. So that's good. I appreciate that new loophole, that new pro-black loophole, man.
It's hard, man, because everybody around you be, you know, even though they say they not celebrating, you know what I'm saying, they be cooking their ass off, you know, and they bring you food, goddamn it, and you know, send you food and shit. And they even call, you know what pissed me off?
What?
People that know you don't observe the holiday still call you and wish you a happy goddamn holiday.
That doesn't upset me.
That upsets me, man, because like, why you doing that? And you know I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't.
Oh, you think they're doing it just to test your gangster, to test your commitment?
I think it's like it's like, I think it's like I'm not gonna change up. Not like I'm not gonna respect that because this is how we've always been. You know, like you know. What I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
You know, you're not gonna respect how it is I'm walking now. You know, because you observe it. It's just this is how we've been. Like.
But then, can you blame them when you sitting at the table with a plate full of chitlins and hog maws?
Look, Joe, you know what I did on Thanksgiving? I slept all day, man, because I actually worked that night before, and I didn't get off until like 3 a.m. You know what I'm saying? I did security that night before, and shit, I was asleep at 4 in the afternoon. I'm getting phone calls and texts and shit. People text me, "Happy birthday!" I mean, "Happy Thanksgiving."
Really?
And y'all wake me up for this shit.
Well, listen, like I said, man, I used to fast 24 hours on Thanksgiving until I found me a sister-in-law who makes vegan cobblers. Now I'm all in. I'm at the table holding my hand. Why do people hold hands like this when they pray? Why they hold hands, Lord? Thank you. I am completely sold out.
Not praying
over I'm not free. I'm cheap. Huh?
Not praying over the food.
Yeah, I stand there. And standing around the table full of food. I'm standing there. For some what do you want from me, man? How else? You got to hook up? You got a source for vegan peach cobbler?
No,
you know?
I do not.
Then don't judge me how I get mine. I get it how I live it.
Hey, get it, bro. Get it.
I'm right there.
Once a year, you gotta get it.
Every third Thursday in November.
Hey, though the sacrifice we gotta make to eat.
Right. That's all. It's a struggle, man. I went too long. I ain't about to mess up the plug.
Hey, but I saw a video that kind of made me think different. Like, do we? It's like people celebrating Nat Turner's death. Like, we celebrate this shit or commemorate it or however people choose to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like somebody else celebrating Nat Turner's death on our
Europeans, white folks?
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame them.
But no, but I'm saying in observing, like maybe I'm explaining it wrong, but it just seems like the people who killed Nat Turner would turn around and like we would turn around and celebrate that as some type of
who's we?
I guess black folks would celebrate the killing of. I'm not doing it justice. I'm not doing the flip justice, but like we celebrating Thanksgiving or commemorate Thanksgiving is celebrating the genocide of a people.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
That's where have you found that Thanksgiving is established? Now, Thanksgiving is distorting a genocide, not celebrating. Those are two different things.
Okay.
So Thanksgiving is like I'm sure you've heard of Holocaust denialism.
Mm-hmm.
So the Europeans wanted to rewrite the history of America and the foundings of America. And they created a mythology surrounding their founding of this country about seeking, and they knew it was a lie when they did it. So it's branding. So it's not celebrating a genocide. They didn't say, well, hey, we committed genocide and we're going to have a feast based on that. The myth is that there was a settlement, and the settlement was starving and suffering, and the noble savage, the natives came and helped the Christian settlement. And God touched the heart of the savage. God put it on the heart of the savage to save his children. So while the natives were feeding the white Christian Puritans, the Puritans were saying, this isn't because the savages are good, because the savage is righteous, but the God has possessed, the spirit of God has touched the savage and sent him to rescue his flock. So, it's just a kind of say, well, it's more accurate to say Thanksgiving was created to distort or obfuscate a genocide. They lied about it to obfuscate a genocide as opposed to, because white folks never admit to that. Even Hitler didn't admit to his final solution. Hitler said, I'm trying to save my people. They always candy coat their atrocities and noble efforts.
Well, okay, so they ate Nat Turner, right? Is that the true?
Who?
They ate him after they lynched him. They ate him.
That was always the thing about that. There's a good book on the history of lynching called "Without Sanctuary." I reference it often. People who observed lynchings would always assume that there was some form of cannibalism because 100% of recorded lynchings, they've always took trophies. Every single lynching had two elements. Number one, they would always target the genitalia of the lynching victim. So it wasn't enough to hang them, shoot them, brutalize them. There was always a hyper focus on the genitalia of the lynching victim, number one. Number two, there was always memorabilia or trophies that the lynchers would take from the body or from the person. So if you see a bunch of people mutilating a body, torturing a person, and then mutilating their corpse, and you could easily say, well, what are they doing with the body parts? What when they take the body parts? So I don't know if it's confirmed or not. I've read a few historical accounts. Some say no, they didn't, and some say yes, it's true. It's kind of like the prima nocta. Some things become kind of urban legends, and we think it's history or it's not. I was doing some research in the Inquisition and European penal code and torture, and how that's really been hyped up, beyond its historical context. So All that to say is I wouldn't put it past them.
I was gonna say I don't think it's far fetched though.
Right.
The way these motherfuckers,
Yeah. So, but anyway, you heard about the passing of the last survivor of the Black Wall Street race riot.
Yeah, man. She lived a long life, man.
Yeah.
And never saw her, and never saw her wishes come true.
What was her wish?
I think she was saying that she was hoping that they got their reparations or whatever they was fighting for, but it was just I think she spoke at some Congress thing, right?
Right.
And whatever she was asking for never came to fruition.
Right. Yeah, I think Black people, we kind of have dishonored the legacy of Black Wall Street. Because every time a group of Black capitalists, a group of Black investors try to come together and have some entrepreneurial or investment venture, they like to tie it to Black Wall Street. And a lot of organizers and con men and cult leaders in our community are always invoking Black Wall Street, how we need to rebuild Black Wall Street, how we need to reclaim Black Wall Street, and a lot of rhetoric. And I think we completely, as a people, as a race, have completely ignored or lost the true lesson of Black Wall Street. Because most people think that Black Wall Street, it demonstrates Black economic self-sufficiency. That Black people have demonstrated the capacity to come together, pool our resources, and engage in commerce and economic development and investment. And it's the big point of pride of Black Wall Street was that the average entrepreneur, business person in Black Wall Street lived better and had a better economic status than the average white person, which was a big provocation to the riot, to the atrocity. But I don't think Black people's capacity for commerce, independent or within capitalism and white hegemony, I don't think that's the lesson that we should take away from Black Wall Street. I think the lesson that we need to learn from Black Wall Street is that fiat, having money, investment, personal wealth, will not protect you from the ravages of imperialism, colonization, or white atrocity and white aggression. That money, the presence of it, will not exempt us from the injustices, and that our vulnerability is not cured by accumulating personal, individual, or even communal wealth. And then there's the other caveat that the vast majority of Black people from Tulsa, Oklahoma lived in abject poverty. Just like here.
Man, that was the thing about that lady. They said she was living in the old folks' home when she died, like a one bed. She had just had she shared a room or was in a 1-bedroom.
Well, I don't know if she was personally wealthy, and because like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's another thing with it's not enough. They didn't limit the murders and the lynchings and the burning to the poor, to the wealthy Blacks. They targeted all the Black people. So poor Black people who had no wealth, who owned no land, who had no economic independence or affluence, suffered.
And the more people say with money, because they said that her house got burnt, got torched during the riots or whatever, and they never replaced her house, right? Like that. And she remember growing up in a nice big house, everything.
So maybe she was one of the wealthy ones, but. Like right now here in Chicago, poverty is rampant in the Black community. But I could take you to neighborhoods where Black folks got mansions, luxury cars, very affluent, wealthy Black people. Black people who are literally, as we speak, part of the economic 1%. Multimillionaire Black people. And the vast majority of Black people here, not the vast majority, but a significant number of Black people live at or below the poverty level. So I'm just saying, we lost the lesson of Black Wall Street. And Black Wall Street was not really, because it's really crazy that Black people, first of all, Black people have been engaged in commerce, trade, development before white people were ever on the planet, before Europe existed. You know, so we don't need Black Wall Street or anything. You know, Black economic development and markets predate the existence of the United States. So
yeah, I don't think that's something we have to be taught to do, is support each other. I think we do. We just do that. If we live in a community, we do that instinctively, right? We just do that because that's just where we are. But yeah, like, I don't think that's the answer to. That's not the answer to our problems.
And I think these Black capitalists have taken ownership of Black Wall Street and using it to promote capitalism and entrepreneurialism to African people is an abuse of an atrocity and abuse of our legacy.
Yeah, it's a straight hustle.
Yeah. But anyway, rest in peace to Sister Viola Ford Fletcher. She's with the ancestors now. They said she lived to be 111 years old.
Yeah, man, that's great. You know what I mean? Like, wow. Even under the conditions she was living in, I know she had to be under a lot of stress too, but how she lived that long is a testimony to something. I don't know what, but maybe her dad or something. She just was kept holding on, hoping, you know what I'm saying, her wish would come true one day.
Yeah. I mean, she was a strong voice for reparations and just securing justice. I got another thing I saw this week is I had a homie send me this video of Dead Prez calling for the release of Dr. York.
Oh my God! I think I saw that, but I didn't even pay no attention to that, man. I saw his name come across my feed somewhere, some way, but I was just like, man, cut it out, man. I used to go to the little bookstore. I used to go to the little bookstore over there on 78th and Ridgeland a few years ago.
Dr. York, you remember that cult?
Yeah, I used to go to
right here.
I used to go to this bookstore.
Dead Prez, and together we Dead Prez, obviously.
Somebody come look at this.
We want to take this time.
Look at
this. Free Dr. York, right? Free Dr. York, a hero for our people.
You see Stick kind of looking like, wait, this is what we doing? Stick always low key. Oh my Lord, have his mercy, huh?
He say his homie wasn't up with that. He got blindsided,
It seems like he
long time needing justice. Now is the time. Now is the time. And shout out to his daughter.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Free them all.
Definitely do. Thank
Free
you
them
so
all.
much.
Yep.
See, Stick Man is like, free them all. Like, okay, like it looked like Stick was kind of, but y'all don't know who Dr. York is. Bless y'all hearts. Because you want to tell them who Dr. York is, James, since you were a member of the cult running around in that bookstore?
No, I wasn't a member of his cult, man. But he is somebody who, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going off. I haven't been out there in probably 15 years. I used to go out there right before, like around the time Obama was elected. But he's someone who's got convicted for rape. He had his own compound, Nuwapian compound. There used to be this cult called the Nuwapians, and he had his whole compound in Atlanta, Georgia, I think, and he erected pyramids, and it was all supposed to be like a replica of Egypt, and you know they was teaching
Dr. Malachi Z. York. He was a pseudo scholar. He was I think like an R&B or funk musician in New York, and he, as his entertainment career didn't take off, he got into being basically a cult leader, and he formatted several ideologies and cults, until he caught one that stick. And because he was like an Islamo cult, kind of adjacent to 5% Nation of Gods and Earth, with the Islamo Afrocentric cult. And then he kind of morphed into an Afrocentric country Western cowboy shit. And then he finally struck gold with this pseudo-Egyptian Kemetic cult. So he went from Islamic Afrocentric to Kemetic Egyptian. And that's the Nuwabians. And throughout his career, he would write this pseudo science fiction that he passed off as history about the origins of humanity, the nature and structure of the universe. And his pamphlets and booklets were everywhere. And they had this weird ass drawings. A lot of it he got from the NOI, Nation of Islam, with the Yaqub and the big head scientist and all that shit. And it was all utter and complete nonsense. But when
all the black characters in the Bible, he drew or replicated all the black characters.
Like all these, like everybody was black. None of it was historical. None of it was archaeological. It was just, like I said, pseudo science fiction, theological cult bullshit, right? But it was saturated with pro-black rhetoric, with rhetoric of self-sufficiency, black supremacy, black purity. Run-of-the-mill cult leader. He was based out in New York for many years, and then he went to Atlanta and started building pyramids and obelisks and sphinx, all this shit. And you could find his members everywhere. I was constantly engaging with followers of Dr. York's and Dr. York's lesson, and he was basically taking advantage of black people who, this goes with our discussion today about low racial esteem, telling black people how great they were, telling black people, yes, he built pyramids, he built sphinx, he built, all type of Egyptian scholarships, Egyptian iconography, what do they call it? Hieroglyphs, writing in hieroglyphs. And he was in this small town in Georgia, and they were walking around with ceremonial headdress and skirts, dressed up like a mockery of ancient Egyptians. But long story short, the man has estimated between 100 and 120 biological offspring. The man has over 100 biological children by a countless number of women. I used to run into people all over New York. Like if you were in the 90s, in the early and mid 90s, if you were in the cultural scene, the activist scene, the Afrocentric community, African Arts Festival, the drum circle, you were going to run into one of the many offsprings of Dr. York. So when he was in Atlanta, reports started coming out from ex-members that young women who were in their late teens, early 20s, who had said that they had been abused by Dr. York for many years, many years. And so anyways, investigation, there was a raid on the compound. When they raided the compound, they were afraid because this is coming off the heels of the Ruby Ridge and the Waco, Texas incident. So the federal government was kind of leery about running up on cults to arrest leaders, because a couple of times they've run up on cults in compounds. They've had shootouts and they've had suicide pacts. So they decided, instead of raiding Dr. York's Egyptian compound, that they would wait for him to exit the compound and get him on the street, pick him up on the street. So anyway, they put the compound under surveillance. Dr. York got in the car with one of his many wives and went to the grocery store or something, and they stopped him and picked him up. And so they compiled all this evidence, all this testimony from his victims, and he's on record. He's on video confessing to the crimes. And he's basically standing there shackled in the judge, and he's telling the judge, I committed these crimes. I am guilty. I haven't been coerced. I haven't been offered anything for my confessions. He said, I abused dozens of children over decades. I sexually abused dozens of children, young girls and boys, over decades. I did this. He was sentenced to like 165 years in prison, and I thought we were done with this motherfucker. But anyway, as people,
he admitted. Now, I never heard that. He admitted to abusing.
He confessed.
A boy?
Yes, he confessed.
Wow, that's wow.
But then after he admitted to doing this, after he admitted to doing this, his followers remained and tried to hold the Nuwaubian nation together. And that some of his former victims, they claimed, that came out and recanted and said, well, we lied. We were told by the FBI to lie, or we were told by this person to make up these stories about Malachi York. And to so now they claim it's muddying the waters and saying, well, people were paid to lie. And of the hundreds of victims over decades, they found a small number of them and say, yeah, I made up the story, or I recant my testimony. And so now there's this thing that Dr. York is innocent, and Dr. York, some of his sons who are adults, started coming out saying, anybody that speak bad of my father, I'm going to kill them. I was listening to an interview on the Conscious Rasta radio program, Kidi Obiawadu, and he was interviewing a man about UFOs and extraterrestrials. And there was a someone had brought up, what happened? Am I saying too much? I don't know. We lost James. But anyway, and this man was like, you know, you're talking about UFOs and extraterrestrials, and, you know, Dr. York was on that and talking about extraterrestrials were really our ancestors and all that. And he was like, man, don't compare me to Dr. York. He's a child rapist. And so Dr. York's son called in and threatened this man's life because their position was, what is happening? Their position was anybody speaking bad about him. So his cult is still around to this day. He still has people that believe that he's innocent, and it blows my mind. Like, my wife is good friends with one of his victims of his cult. She knew that I met, and I've met several young women who said that they were either approached by him and this and that, but and I have a good friend who had gone to the retreats. I wouldn't say he was a member, but he was receptive to the message, and he went to their compound or to their retreat when it was upstate New York, and knew several people from that. But it's all just basic cult shit.
Yeah,
cult.
my bad. Somebody called.
Miseducating our people and abusing our people, and it kind of threw me for a loop that my homie sent me that, because, you know, I have a fondness for Dead Prayers and their work, but sometimes.
Yeah, he had his outlets, and he had a bookstore in Chicago. I don't know if you know about it, on 78th and Ridgeland, right over there by South Chicago, right off South Chicago over there. And me and my buddy used to go out there almost every weekend for about a month or so, just to buy books and listen to the lecture about a cat that was supporting him. It was a handful of people in there, but he had all his books and other stuff in there that you can buy. He was
very prominent, very, very popular in his day. I know every time I was out doing anything in the community, any type of protest, resistance, the Nuwaubians were out there. They weren't I forget the name. Like I said, he was really committed to building a cult. And like I said, he had several iterations of transformation, kind of like the black version, a failed black version of the founder of Mormons, Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith kept changing up his shit as he goes, and because he was basically God's regent on earth, his voice was akin to speaking of God. So even if they say some shit that fully contradicts what they said before, the followers are so lost, man. But cults, I've been calling out cults in the Black conscious community particular for a long time, and you would think that being Black and conscious would make us, the very nature of Black consciousness would make us immune to cults. But for some reason, we're very, very vulnerable to cults and magical thinking in the Black liberation struggle. So it was disappointing. I hope some people holler at Dead Prayers. And I accept like Stickman said, free them all. I'm a prison abolitionist, but you'll never hear me calling for the freedom of Dr. York or anybody who's preyed on Black women in our community. So
No, I think it's easy to pull people in, man, because it's shit people never heard before, and they feel like it's part of our history, or it's part of us taking control of changing the narrative. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I can see why people would easily fall into that.
Yeah, and you know, I was just like, I did a whole discussion on cults in general. You know, I always say cults don't cultivate, and we give such a pass to a cult as if we think it's okay to lie to people if you're telling them something good. You know, and lying to a population of people never comes good, even if you're trying to do something positive, even if you're trying to accomplish something positive. If it's built on a lie, it will always have a vulnerability at its core. You know, and there are some other cults that there's so many. I remember I was at the Asar Set Society going to their group meetings, but at that time, especially in the early 90s, New York was just saturated with pro-black cults.
Yeah,
And then you get people saying shit like this, you know, nonsense. People say nonsense. Why not the fall for Marxism? Why not Nubianism? Nubianism and Marxism aren't even
in the same ballpark, bro.
Right.
But I used to go to. I've been out to no, what was that? The Earth Center or something out there.
Mm-hmm.
Master Naba used to. I think that's where he used to be. The Earth Center, right out there in Bronzeville.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy, he introduced me to the little spot out there, and but yeah, the Arset Society is with Raul Nefer, right?
Yeah, Shechem on Shechem.
Yeah,
Raul Nefer, Amen. I got his books. You know, I feel bad to this day because I had found his books when I was I went from Christian to Islam to African spirituality. And so I had found the book, the Matu Nater, and I was like, wow, this book is hella interesting. I'd never read anything like this. And so I sent my homeboy a copy. And my homeboy got completely engulfed into the cult. He changed his name. When his mother passed away, he gave a big chunk of his inheritance to the Asar set. It was horrible. And when he finally got deprogrammed from that particular cult, he had jumped from that cult to another cult, Bahami Temple cult. So he had started cult hopping. You know, one cult would he'd run a file of it, and then he'd find another cult. But when he really came out of the whole cult program, he was deprogrammed from the cult. He was like, you know, being in a cult is akin to being addicted to drugs. You know, he's like, it's like an addiction. So these cults are harming our people. Even the cults that tell us we queens, we kings, we gods, we the original people, we will inherit the earth, our enemies will crumble, blah, 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 blah. Even the cults that are telling us good shit, they don't play out well. Cults don't cultivate. And I was around cults. I'd say a good quarter of the people that I've worked with in the community organizing with, I would estimate about a quarter of them were directly, actively in cults or adjacent to cults or had some type of affinity for some cults. And the Nation of Islam is probably the largest cult, with several Afrocentric cults, you know, and I never gave, because I just couldn't. I'm just like, when I was around, I'm like, man, there's some good shit here. But because of the overall, the packaging, it's really can't be extracted. You know, we really can't.
I just never saw it as fighting for power. Like it's all this cultural stuff, but it never really how do you resist? How do you fight against what we really need to be fighting against? You know what I mean? It's like if we do all of this mystical stuff, shit's gonna change. But as you say, like we had all that shit before we got here,
right? And
we still ended up here. So, you know, it never went far enough for me. You know
yeah, you know, and I was always there because like I said, I was always around it because they were so prominent in the community. These various cults, they were so prominent in the community that it was inescapable. And even though I always get accused of being divisive amongst Black people because I call out religion, spirituality, and cults, that I'm divisive, I've never ever took the position that, oh, this person has a spiritual or supernatural belief, therefore I can't work with them. I've never taken that position. Are you serious? Are you serious? What makes the Asar Set Society? It's a religious cult. The Shechem are Shechem. You know, wait, all the same thing, all the same shit.
The 11 laws of God.
The Egyptian tree of life spiritual system. And holding of the Ab man and maybe we can do a discussion on the Asar Set Society. But I do give the Asar Set Society some credit. There's been no major scandals coming out of that cult, which is why they're able maybe to fly under the radar, or people are like, oh, it's just a community or a commune. I know people who have had tens of thousands of dollars taken from them.
I got the sense that Raul Nefer was a genuine dude, man. You know what I mean? Like I watched plenty of lectures on him. I never had the sense that he was trying to get. I just thought I thought personally, from what I got, the sense that I got, that he was a genuine dude just trying to teach the ancient spiritual systems that, you know, that we abide by. You know what I'm saying? I never.
To what end?
But right, that's what I'm saying. Like it never went far enough to me. So
I went when they used to be on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. I used to go to the Asar Set Society groups, but you know, just follow the bite model. If you start to interact with any member of the Asar Set Society, you'll find that they are detached from reality. They have a fixation on the leader, the Shechem Shechem. He is almost deity status. The information that they control, because there was a lot of shit that was attractive to me in there. They were vegan. First of all, I used to eat at their restaurant off Flatbush all the time. They were vegan. They promoted veganism. They promoted polygamy. You can have as many women as you want. You know, there was a lot of shit in the Asar Set Society that I'm like, cool. But I'm like, but the bottom line is, it's a mythological thing. It's pseudo history, and it's mythological. It's a religious cult. And now, the community, there were a lot of positive aspects to the community, but there were many people, the deeper people got, the more detached they came from the larger community, the more detached they became from reality itself. They begin to take, and if you were interacting with the Asar Set, the people who were ascending, the Asar man, and you were an Ab man, lower vibration, and they were on the higher attunement, then they would start to treat you differently, treat you as though you were inferior. Like I said, I had a homie who was a member of the Asar Set, and he dropped tens of thousands of dollars up from his inheritance. And they just milked him and milked him and milked him until he ran out of money. He didn't reach the Asar status. And then he went from being courted and groomed by the group to they just started ignoring him. But, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, like I never, because you know, by me being an atheist, right? Some of that shit I just can't jive with. But I do feel like it was probably some type of internal development there. Some, you know, they're trying to, but yeah, it that's never went, and then it got to be confusing.
And they teach a bunch of mythological shit, like a woman can't prepare, a woman is unclean on her menstrual cycle. Like the women in the community, if they're on their menstrual cycle, they're not allowed to like prepare food and do other things because they can contaminate shit. That kind of bullshit, you know. And the women are definitely subjugated in the Asar Set. So, but people are like, oh, that's not a cult. I suppose.
Yeah, I never got that far, but that's what I did get to. It was just basically they talking about energy and matter, so it's scientific and like it's just got to be confusing and like, okay, if I'm this man, then all this different kind of higher and lower self, that shit kind of sound like Islamic stuff. You know what I'm saying? The way people in Islam talk, like, and like you said, it was just a bunch of mystical stuff that I really couldn't really.
Listen, I don't have a definition of cult that belongs to me. I go off the standard definition. A cult is basically a small group of people who believe in some supernatural, otherworldly nonsense that makes them unique and encapsulates them from the larger beliefs and values of the community. A cult is a small religion. A religion is a large cult. That's it. It's not really a complex thing. There are characteristics such as manipulation, taking people's wealth, manipulation of people, controlling the information that they have, controlling behaviors, and orienting people's attention, focus, and values towards a charismatic leader. You know, just those are the basic characteristics, but it's basically any small group of people that have a supernatural, otherworldly beliefs or practices.
To me,
and I've never seen a group of people that isolate and get these that is not historical, it's not scientific, it's not evidence-based. You know, and they have their own way of dressing, they have their own unique way of terminology and language, and they have a hierarchy and a value system. Marxism doesn't do any of that. So you're showing your ignorance of Marxism. What does Marxism is an agenda, but it is not in any way a religion. There's nothing supernatural or otherworldly about Marxism. There is nothing salvationist or apocalyptic, magical about Marxism. It's completely secular.
Yeah, like it's more scientific.
Yeah, it's like I knew a sister that was a member of a SAR set for many years, a really good sister. And she's like, I was an Afrocentric nun. They dictate how you dress. They dictate how you eat. They dictate how you engage with other people within and outside of the cult. You know, it's in the Asara Set Society does meet the basic definition of a cult.
And they don't resist nothing. Like, I've never really heard them talk about.
Well, that's not their role. The whole point of the Asara Set Society is not Black liberation. It's individual cultivation. You cultivate the self, and you reach the status of an Asar man, an ascendant man or woman. So and that's when you reach true enlightenment. And then all this shit, people suffering, oppression, racism, that's all beneath you. We rise above that through cultivating meditation.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Meditation and internal spiritual cultivation. And then as you reach the Asar level, as you ascend, people will start to engage with you differently. So the cop will run up on you and he'll hit the unenlightened Negro on the head, but he won't touch you.
Because you got this soul glow around you, got that,
right?
You glowing and floating.
And there are secular cults. There are cults of personalities that kind of rally around an individual, where it's not a form. Like MAGA is a cult. You know, it's a cult of personality. But the most common cults have some type of supernatural, otherworldly, religious core. And they offer you some type of substantial reward, either in the afterlife or later down the line, if you adhere to the teachings of the cult.
Yeah, man. If it's not about Black liberation, man, I don't want nothing to do with it. really though. I mean, because I think that's what I really was getting in. Like that's why I really started, really delving into this history part and trying to figure out how we can come up out of this shit. And it never addressed any of that. You know what I'm saying? It never brought the political aspect into the shit. So I just kind of felt like it was always incomplete.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't.
But I don't think fraternities and sororities classify as cults. Atheism is not a cult. So can we move on? We'll revisit this because people are up in arms. They don't like us to talk about their Shechem. They don't like us to talk about their holy men, their shaman, their divinely inspired, divine leaders.
But it do got something to do with racial esteem, though. You know what I mean? Because people do get a pride behind these things because it uplifts us. It gives us some type of.
I don't think people listen. If you're floating in space, it's kind of hard to identify whether you're moving up, down, or side to side. So when you talk about upliftment, most of these things that we see as uplifting aren't truly uplifting. But I can see, oh yeah, this is lifting us up. This is, but
no, but people, they take that, we was kings and queens. It makes us feel, it gives us a higher racial esteem.
Yeah. We're very vulnerable to that.
It's probably baseless, but I mean, it gives coming from where we're coming from being nothing, being told you're nothing and had nothing, to actually seeing that we produced all of this great stuff. That transition is huge to people's racial esteem.
Yeah.
But like you say, at the end of the day, it can really be tore down because it's not really based on anything solid.
Right.
So.
Right. And here's the thing. And he's like, oh, excessive. A lot of times, excessive rules, the Asara set, because I've been to their gatherings, I've been to some of their rituals. First of all, nobody questions the Shechem or Shechem. The Shechem or Shechem was the final voice. And this is back in, maybe they've reformed. I haven't been around them in quite some time, but I first attended they used to give free classes. I think 92, 93 was the first time I had dealt with the Asara set. So between like 92 to maybe 2002, 2003, I was engaging with members. I was a good friend of one of the members who ran the vegan restaurant, and his girlfriend at the time. They're no longer together, but I still keep up with some of the ex-members. And maybe I'll bring on some of if they're willing to talk. And everybody's like, oh, you can freely come and you can freely go. It's not. And it's like the Jehovah's wickedness. People say the same thing. The Jehovah's Witness, you can come or you can go. There's many insidious ways to impose control. And when people get ingrained into a community that they say, well, we have an understanding that surpasses everybody else's understanding. We have practices that set us not just apart, but above everyone else. And then that community kind of becomes your be all end all. They don't have to say, well, do this or you get out. But exile from the group becomes your whole identity, and they use that to manipulate you. And they love bomb you. A cult can manipulate you through kindness as effectively as they manipulate you through cruelty. But one thing I know is that the supernatural elements have no foundation in truth or facts. And yes, that's when I said the cultivation of self, that's their rhetoric. That's like saying Islam is a religion of peace, or Jesus or Christianity is a religion that loves the foreigner and loves the poor. Every religion, every belief system has positive rhetoric. That's like saying the U.S. Constitution is about freedom and democracy. So yes, we could talk about the rhetoric, the branding of a thing, or we could talk about the reality, the material outcome of a thing. So yeah, I acknowledge that the selling point of if you run into an Asara set recruiter and they say, well, it's all about cultivating the self. And then next thing you know, you paying $10,000 to go live in a tent and eat tofu every damn day. Which literally happened to people I know on a Asara set spiritual retreat. Paid 10 G's to eat tofu in a broke down tent.
Yeah, that's just the surface pitch to get you in. But once you get in, there's a back room you gotta go into if you want to get deeper into
exactly. And my issue is being that we're under genocidal oppression. Anybody that is selling falsehoods to African people is contributing to that. And to me, anybody taking advantage of the vulnerabilities that come as a byproduct of being oppressed for generations is a sellout. Anyway, I want to talk. Listen, I got a message earlier today that kind of disturbed me, and it was basically somebody else. So I'm like the third person. I'm hearing this down the line. So I ain't gonna name no names, because I know a lot of people might know these people. But basically, these two other people had a discussion. And one person was talking about the Chinese. And I don't know if you've ever met a black person that's like enamored by the Chinese. Like the Chinese have built their own economy. The Chinese have done this and they fighting the white man. And the Chinese is this and that. And even Farrakhan used to walk around talking about he wanted to emulate the Chinese. Like how the Chinese built Chinatown. The Chinese don't ask the white man for nothing. The Chinese. And using them as a bludgeon to shame black people. So if the Chinese can get free, why can't we? The Chinese can rise up and compete against this man. What's wrong with us? And I've had to address this so many times, and I don't even think it's appropriate or necessary to make these type of comparisons. But people are going to do it. And it's always funny to me where people would talk about, thank you. You, CD. Fall back. You coming on here? Fall back. I don't come on your job and try to tell you the comfortable places to sleep while you on the clock. Don't come here while I'm doing my thing and interfere with my work. But anyway, so every now and then we have to deal with this thing where, and it's very curious to me because black folks love to talk about the Chinese economic miracle, or what they used to call the Asian tiger economies. Japan.
I'm guilty of falling into that.
Yeah.
I mean, because, I'm just not as well versed as y'all, but I do, I do see it and then be like, okay,
right.
How did they come up? You know what I'm
right.
saying?
And what's funny to me is that a lot of black people who are enamored by the progress and resistance that China was able to achieve in a relatively short span of time, they are, most of them, if not all of them that I interact with, are completely ignorant of the history or the path that China took to being a regional superpower, if not a world superpower. Well, it's a regional military power, and it's a global economic superpower. And they ignore the Cultural Revolution. They ignore the Maoist ideology. They ignore sinocentrism. And so this one guy comes to me and said, well, there's this guy I know that we know that that talks about China and is very complimentary towards China, and puts down black people. And he basically asked me, what do I say when someone does that? When someone comes to me and says China's great and what's wrong with black people? I told him that your response should be, the reason why China is great and we're still struggling is because China purged all of its Uncle Tom and self-hating Chinese people. Or to quote Malcolm, he said, Chinese are so powerful because there's no more Uncle Tom Chinamen. And so they look at what China did externally towards the world, but they like to ignore what China did internally through its various cultural revolutions. So the very people that ask that question, you can literally tell them, oh, what's wrong with us? Look at China. Say, go look in the mirror, motherfucker. You what's wrong with us? to posit that question means you don't comprehend.
No, it sounds like what Haiti did. What like what Haiti had to do. They had to internally clean up, and that's and if
But here's the problem with Haiti. Oh, go on.
And if I know who you're talking about, right? I get all of those posts also, but there's always this. We have to internally clean up before we could, go outward to clean up. So
well, it has to be simultaneous. I think that revolution has to be in all directions at the same time. Revolution doesn't really play out in like a paint by numbers. First you do this, and then you do this, then you do that. Especially in a multi-generational struggle, we have to be much, much more dynamic, because if you say, well, there's a step we must take before we go to the next step, then all they have to do is focus in on one step. But one component it's like Malcolm X gave a pretty extensive discussion about the Chinese Revolution. And he talked about how collaborators, basically Chinese integrationists, Chinese who had Western religious, Western economic sense, because they think, we like in the West, we call it the Chinese Communist Party. But it's not a communist party, it's a Maoist party. So most people, that even when you take something that could be considered Western, which I don't think it is, such as people said Marxism or communism, they constructed their own uniquely Sinocentric version in the Maoists. And that's why Pan-African revolutionaries wouldn't say I'm a Marxist. They say I'm an Nkrumahist. I'm a Touréist. I'm a Sankarist. Because many of what was identified in dialectical and historical materialism are pretty much universal to all developing complex societies or civilizations. The hierarchies, how the hierarchies evolve, how markets evolve, how the material resources available to the people drive the culture and society and the nature of the society. So what is identified there? And a lot of times, especially in Western culture, if you are an observer, if you observe a phenomenon, they consider you to be the founder of that phenomenon, as though you created it. So when Darwin observed finches and was able to distinguish, these finches, their physical form is dictated by the environment and what they did. He didn't create evolution. He simply observed and documented it. That's what Marx did. Marx didn't create communism. He simply observed economic processes and documented it. He did draw some conclusions and offer some suggestions and opinions, but many of his suggestions were way off. But it was advanced for the time, but we've come a long way, baby. We've come pretty long way. And as Amos Wilson said, the greatest asset a people can have is a structured, unified outlook. A common way, a collective way of perceiving reality, interpreting, evaluating, and valuing reality. He said that's the greatest thing a people can have. And that's what Islam gave the Arabs. That's what Sinocentrism and Maoism gave to the Chinese. And we think that we, as Africans, can adopt an alien worldview, adopt an alien social theory, and adopt alien ideologies and use those, or even worse than adopting that, to use ourselves. Because most of the time you see that Africans adopt somebody else. Let's do a Wall Street. How the fuck are you going to do Wall Street without colonization and imperialism? Let's do what the Chinese did, have our own Chinatown. How are you going to have a Chinatown and have a Chinatown without a cultural revolution and an absolute internal purge of sellouts from within and have a purge of colonizers from without. We really think, hey, we can be Christian, we can be Muslim, we can be capitalist, we can even be American, foundational American, and build black power based on with all of these alien concepts. And that is due to low self-esteem. It's a conclusion that African people, being the original people, cannot create anew, but all we can do is adapt or manipulate alien concepts.
Boom, there it is right there. Yeah.
Please stop in the comments just asking me is random shit a cult. It's kind of tired. Stop asking me is random shit a cult. Now y'all want to act brand new like y'all don't know what cultism is or what a cult is. So people organizing and working together is not a cult. If there's no supernatural element, no supernatural reward, no exclusionary or hierarchical belief that thing, because I believe this nonsense, it puts me apart and above everybody else. Anyway, you think so? Dr. Did he make great music? I heard some of it. It sounded weird, like funk music. If he did, man, he was R. Kelly before R. Kelly, if that's true. But I digress. So I also talked about self-love. Are you familiar with the concept of self-love?
Yeah, like self-care.
Is that where you go? You go immediately to self-care.
Well, I'm assuming it's like, if you love yourself, then you would take care of yourself, and you would do all of these lovely things for yourself, to like, I don't know, like, I haven't seen really examples of that, but the examples I have seen is like just detaching from shit and going on vacations and getting massages and getting all this stuff done for yourself.
Indeed. And you're right. I agree with everything you just said, but there's a big push. I don't know if you've heard about the soft life movement.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and so like
letting
this
the man take
self-love,
care of everything, letting the man. Well, I mean, as far as women go, I haven't heard this from the men on the men's side, but on the women's side, I've heard like, yeah, you want to let that man take care of you? Do you want to sit at home and you don't want to go out in the work world and face all of the harsh realities of white supremacy or white pathology, white hegemony or whatever, what I'm saying, we got to deal with out there, sit at home, take care of the babies, and, be soft.
The reality is people are selling self-care as a way of basically suggesting that there can be individual liberation, that you can free yourselves from the harsh realities of the world and focus on yourself as an individual. And this has been going around for quite some time, that loving yourself is an affront or a challenge to oppression. And so, and it's of course a multi-million-dollar industry, but it's also a fallacy that I think that is a big part of preventing us to come together to mount an effective opposition to white domination and capitalism, because self-love fits very well within the spectrum of capitalist accumulation and capitalist hierarchy.
It's almost like the Asar said, like the self-cultivation thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a great book called The Century of the... Oh, it was so good.
They don't want to deal with the black liberation part. They just, just want to deal with the self, and that's supposed to take care of everything. Like, I ain't going for that, man.
Hold on, I'm gonna share this. I want to share the intro to this. Hold on a second. Let me share the. I want to share this. There's a documentary called "The Century of the Self" because a lot of Black people think this shit is brand new. Hold on.
A new theory about human nature was put forward by Sigmund Freud. He had discovered, he said, primitive sexual and aggressive forces hidden deep inside the minds of all human beings. Forces which, if not controlled, led individuals and societies to chaos and destruction. This series is about how those in power have used Freud's theories to try and control the dangerous crowd in an age of mass democracy. At the heart of the story is not just Sigmund Freud, but other members of the Freud family. This episode is about Freud's American nephew, Edward Bernays. Bernays is almost completely unknown today, but his influence on the 20th century was nearly as great as his uncle's. Because Bernays was the first person to take Freud's ideas about human beings and use them to manipulate the masses. He showed American corporations for the first time.
All right, so that's the intro, and it's free on YouTube. But
oh, bro, hey, somebody just sent me that the other day, and I watched like not even 5 minutes, or maybe about 5 minutes of it, and it blew my wig back, or my scalp back. You know what I mean? Because I just couldn't believe how propaganda, like from all the shit that they was, how propagandized we are, bro. Like, oh my God, man. That's
right. So
wow.
They don't even have to hide that shit now, because now the self, it used to be people would pretend not to be self-oriented, self-centered, selfish, because it was frowned upon. The highest value of an adult in society is to be what they used to call civic mindedness and civic duty, meaning that you acknowledge and embrace the fact that you owed an obligation to your larger community. And that if your well-being is detached from the larger community, then you're not a whole or complete person. And so then, as the book suggested, that you were going to have mass democracy, and mass democracy, or as the elite used to call it back then, the revolt of the masses, when you would give people all this freedom and dignity, all this personal freedom and personal rights, but at the same time, people who had personal freedom and personal rights, they did not want those people to utilize those rights to take away the advantage, the excess of wealth and power that the monarchs and the elites had. So they created this whole concept of self-care. I got to take care of myself, and I don't need to be ashamed, a mental health day, and all these things where they have individualized well-being. Even though the more isolated you become, no matter how much wealth you have, no matter how many servants you have, you can have servants that cater to your every need. Every time there's any problem, you have the money to hire someone to fix it, from your car to your home to your fingernails. If you are not able to make a psycho-emotional connection with another human being and truly feel connected with that, you will begin to deteriorate psychologically and eventually physically. So the very concept of self-care, because the self itself, by definition, can be defined or understood in relationship to the whole. So if you take something and have it in isolation, you can never truly understand it or even truly value it. I can give you a gasket or a car battery, or I can give you a car battery and I could give you the highest quality car battery. But if you don't have a vehicle to insert it, then it can never fully actualize its purpose. So what good is having the best, most expensive car battery in the world if there's no vehicle to insert it into?
Yeah, I get that. It's kind of like the primate thing. Like primates are very social, and as you say, we are primates. So
Right.
they actually, there's no self-care, but they actually take care of each other.
Right.
Which
And in
is
some countries,
the highest form of self-care.
it is illegal to own a social pet in isolation. So some animals can be solitary, like a house cat. Those are solitary animals. But I think it's guinea pigs. Guinea pigs are socially oriented animals, and they begin to suffer and deteriorate in isolation. So by law, if you want to have a guinea pig as a pet, you have to purchase a partner and buy them by twos like Noah. So even and if you look at zoologists and conservationists, they understand that if you have a communal animal and you capture that communal animal and you put it in an ideal habitat and meet all of its needs, it will still begin to deteriorate. It won't eat. It won't be able to thrive unless it has others. So it's understood, even in psychology, in earliest stages of psychology and psychotherapy, it used to be, it's like, well, you have to work on the person and improve the person. But as the science advances, as the scholarship advances, they find like, no, we need community psychology. A person can only advance so far past the well-being of their group. And so the self-care delusion, the being that, hey, if I get enough money, I get enough status, if I get enough distance from these niggas, these wild to get away from these niggas, I can be okay. And it's not truly self-care. And I support self-care. I support the development of the individuals, the value of the individuals taking what they need in their own unique space to preserve and enrich and strengthen themselves. I support the individual. But they're not truly talking, because an individual by definition is a part of a whole. Is a component of a whole. And if you're not developing, cultivating, protecting, reinvigorating yourself to go back and engage with the whole, what is the purpose of it? What are you doing it for? What is to be the outcome?
No, because right, people in isolation become depressed, right?
Right.
Very
You see, we got an Asara sect cultist in the comments. I know you're mad that I called your cult a cult. If I apologize for calling your cult a cult and calling the Sheker or Shechem a cult leader, do you promise to stop making all these asinine comments so that we can proceed with our discussion? Because that's cultish behavior. Somebody, you start flipping out and acting out because somebody said something about the Shechem. That's some cultish characteristics right there. You know, you don't have to get violent in order to be identified as a offended cult member. You can just be irrational, posting irrational shit. So if I apologize, I'm sorry I called the Asar Set Society a cult. It's a society, a supernatural community. And I'm sorry I called the Shechem or Shechem supreme leader and father of the group. I'm sorry that I called him a cult leader. Okay, now we agree. So you can stop saying asinine shit, trying to suggest that having a pet is the same as being in a cult. Now we've reached peace. So anyway, it ties in. So this self-care thing ties into racial esteem. Because we are oppressed. We are an oppressed people. I would go so far as to say we're enslaved. Because, again, as Bobby Wright said, when all of the institutions and resources necessary for the well-being and survival of your people are under the control of another population, then you are, by definition, a slave. Now, it's really hard. And I don't even like saying it, because there are brothers and sisters in the world right now. Every incarcerated black person in the U.S., every, millions of Africans in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia, Mauritania, Sudan are under chattel slavery. So the wage caste slave system that we live under here, we got flat TVs and we got our own car notes. So it's really hard to compare the two and call them both slavery. But in a broader definition, we're oppressed, and oppression unavoidably leads to compromising a people's outlook and view of themselves, to where the majority of black people not only don't have a desire for freedom, they don't even have a functional definition of what freedom is. So they have a very warped concept of freedom in terms of thinking that, well, getting money, accumulating fiat is freedom. Holding positions of authority or prominence within the systems of their oppressors, their enemies, is freedom.
Traveling is outside of the country is freedom. Traveling
to one occupied, colonized piece of territory from another one is freedom. And then you take a selfie. So the low racial esteem is understandable, but it cannot be sustained or tolerated. We have to combat it. And the only way we can combat it is not by escapism. Because if you under oppressed people, you conclude you have low racial esteem, and then you start to engage in escapist. Well, I'm not an African. I'm a Native American. I'm not a black person. I'm Chickasaw. I'm a Arab Bedouin. You know, my ancestors were Arab Bedouins, and I prayed to their God. Or, you know, Jesus Christ has absolved me of my skin and will make me lighter than snow. I got a degree. I got bank. I fly on a private jet. We have all these non-freedom behaviors to escape from the core reality that we are under genocidal oppression, that our oppressors, white people, as identified by Chancellor Williams, are our implacable foe, our eternal bitter enemy. And our role, and the only way to define ourselves as excellent, black excellence, the only way to define ourselves as progressing, achieving, the only way to be able to say, hey, we have been restored, we have been reparated, because reparations is not getting money. Reparations, by definition, means you return to the status that you were at before the atrocity occurred. So before we entered chattel slavery and colonization, did we just have a lot of money and have our bills paid? So there is no true reparations without reestablishing the African continent as the home of the African, and the resources and wealth of Africa being under the exclusive control of African people. That's true reparations. And we've whittled that down to, hey, everybody cut the check, which is like devolution, reverse evolution. So all that to say is our racial esteem, our black excellence can only be defined according to the quality, intensity, and extent of our resistance to capitalism and white hegemony. And if what you're doing, and if what you're doing is cannot be identified and in some way subverting, challenging, undermining, reversing, delegitimizing capitalism and white hegemony, then it can't be called black excellence. Whether you chasing balls, you rocking the mic, you got degrees on your walls, or you're accumulating fiat when you sleep. You know, you're getting money while you sleep because of your investment. None of that's black excellence. The only thing that can be determined to be black excellence is that undermine, challenges our genocidal oppression. Everything else will have to go under some other title and be valued some other way. And that's the only way to restore our racial esteem. Every black child should have it communicated, articulated, and demonstrated to them. That's the whole purpose you're born for. Not saying you can't enjoy dirt biking, you can't enjoy the game, you can't enjoy inventing, creating, and enjoy commerce, providing services and products to the population. You can do all of that. We just don't define that as Black excellence. We don't define that as Black excellence.
Bro, I agree. I so much agree with that. But I think you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like if we not trying to resist this shit, then I don't see what the purpose of any of this shit we doing is. Like all the other shit just seem like buying in.
Right.
And say just saying it's Black excellence because we've been able trying to keep up.
It's escapism.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm actually hearing, as you say, Chancellor Williams said that the white man has proven after what he say, this is not a wild-eyed, but this is a sober analysis. This is
right. He said this is not the rantings of a wide-eyed militant.
Yeah, this is a sober analysis that the white man is our open and bitter enemy. You're starting to hear white folks come out and admit that now.
Yes.
I heard a white lady say, yeah, I mean, our racism is totally, it's just totally that. We are your open enemy. Like, and I'm saying,
yes.
Right, if we
the thing is that white people would go extinct without racism, without white nationalism, white pride, because it's fully appropriate to be an Irishman and have Irish pride. It's fully appropriate to be a Scottish man with Scottish pride. It's okay to be Italian with Italian pride. It's okay to be German. It's okay to be a Frenchman with French pride. But whiteness is a different reality. The concept of whiteness is omnicidal. So white hegemony, European, Western, whatever, this mutated monster concept of whiteness that isn't really definable outside of its destruction and predation. White people came together as white people exclusively for the purposes. Like when Europeans came here, they had mad beef. Europeans came here from Europe and they were hacking and slaughtering each other wholesale. 100 years old, War of the Roses, 30 years wars. The noblemen, the monarchs were mobilizing the peasants and the serfs, and they were hacking each other to bits for generations. And when they came here, they were like, well, let's get back to murdering and slaughtering each other. The Puritans are going to fight and then you had all these religious factions, even though they were all Christians. You had the Calvinists, you had the Shakers, the Baptists, the Anabaptists. They were about to say, hey, let's all slaughter each other. But then they looked over the horizon and there were some other people there, indigenous people. They were like, damn, we can't do our murder orgy because these foreign people on their land, they were on Native American soil saying, look at these foreigners. That's how. And so they said, well, how do we, because we've been slaughtering each other since the Vikings. We've been slaughtering each other since the Roman day. We've been slaughtering each other since the Greeks. We've been slaughtering each other since before we had written language. Since we had an oral language or a culture, you go and look at any book on European archaeology. They find bones they're constantly in Europe and excavating in Germany, and they'll find a mass grave, and the body's got teeth marks in the bones, petrified bones. So anyway, that's when they invented whiteness. When they went out of the world and said, hey, how do we create a means of settling our internal disputes enough to engage in conquest of other people? So you're no longer a Scotsman. You're no longer a Brit. You might be a Anabaptist. You might be a Protestant. You might be a Catholic. But we got to slaughter these natives. We got to enslave these Africans. We got to starve these East Indians. We got to dump opiate on these Asians. That's where whiteness come from. Whiteness came about as a result for the necessity of conquest. And so when white people come out and say, hey, I'm a proud Irishman, it doesn't bother me at all. But if a white person comes out and said, I'm a proud white man, that's a problem. And they even say, oh, it's okay to be white. No, it's not. It's not.
Or a proud American.
That doesn't. You got black folks that believe that.
Yeah, but it still implies a certain.
Yeah.
It implies a certain status, though. Like,
yeah, I have an uncle who I love, and he is a veteran. You know, he shed blood in the name of the U.S. empire, and he has an American flag on his house. It doesn't bother me. But if I see a white person displaying the flag, and it means something, the shit means something. Even like when you're dealing with hierarchies, you have to understand, because I've made this mistake myself. I was just criticizing and mocking Candace Owens. And I'm about to piss some people off, but I am a cisgendered heterosexual man, which in the overall hierarchy, in the checkbox of hierarchies, that definitely puts me below white men and white women and wealthy people. But being that where I am, there are a lot of people that have compounding oppressions that are greater than mine. So you have the overall system of oppression and exploitation. And then me being a poor black man that didn't come from money, that's another, my class. But because I am cisgendered and heterosexual and I have a formal education and a formal degrees, that does afford me some level of relief, I might think. But for a woman, a disabled person, a migrant, an LGBTQ person, a neurodivergent person, those are additional compounding oppressions that you have to acknowledge. Beyond that, so even if I'm criticized, like when I criticize Candace Owens, I have to be careful that my criticism doesn't descend into sexism or validate sexist positions. So even if I'm criticizing a black man that gets online and he didn't have the opportunities to get a formal education, get degrees like I got, but he's on there saying some nonsense, I have to make sure that my critique, my criticism, my dismissal or mockery does not in any way fall into the realm of being elitist or dismissive, because I have to recognize, they call it privilege, but that's not the fuck what it is. The hierarchy and status is not privilege. So even when we're criticizing something, and if a black man, because there's a lot of sisters out here saying a lot of nonsense, pro-capitalist, anti-social, pro-Western, religious, fanatical sisters out here. But when I level criticism against them, I have to be more mindful than if I'm talking about somebody like Tariq Nasheed or Dr. Fubar. Anyway. And that's just being politically correct. And I am an advocate of political correctness, by the way.
Yeah, I could see. I'm probably guilty of some of that too, but I don't have no status though. I'm just I'm the lumping proletariat.
But you do let me tell you something. Every black man is oppressed. Every black man is oppressed. But no black man is oppressed because they're a man. Because we live in a patriarchal society. Every straight person is oppressed. But no straight person is oppressed because they're straight. So when you want to rise up and organize against oppression, you have to identify the point of oppression. Because there are a lot of straight, heterosexual black men who are oppressed and thinks that the rally point should be our masculinity. And we think, well, we're men, and then that's how this thing like manosphere or red pill and so many black men fall into this fascist reactionary means, because their oppression is legitimate, but they have not properly diagnosed the source of the oppression. So there are a lot of black men advocating for patriarchy because they think that patriarchy, I'm a man, and if we uplift masculinity and patriarchy, me as a man, I'm going to benefit from that. Because you have not fully identified the true source or the intersection of your oppression. So CD's not listening. I didn't say that black men have patriarchy. I said we are oppressed by a patriarchy. But I digress. Every wealthy black person is oppressed. You cannot tell me that wealthy black people do not suffer from oppression, discrimination, and all the other shit. But then if you have a black person say, oh, it's because I got money, they coming down on me because I got money. And people are saying that. They came down on Cosby and they came down on Diddy because they don't want to see a black man with money. And then your dumb ass out here start advocating for the black elite, the black bourgeoisie, and start trying to expend your energy fighting on behalf of the black elite. So we are all oppressed. Every African is oppressed. Every woman is oppressed. Every LGBTQ person is oppressed. But you can only justly and justifiably organize against your oppression at the point of oppression. If you rally around other characteristics that are not at the point of oppression.
Hey, bro, I got a question, man, and it's been on my mind for a couple of days since I heard it, and I don't think this take us off the path we are now, but I heard somebody say, a talk show host, a prominent talk show host off the Urban View, say that Clarence Thomas is a racist, and somebody was saying, well, he can't, like, because the thing goes, black people can't be racist because we don't have any power. But they trying to say that he has power and he uses his power against us. You know what I'm saying? And so that makes him racist. So I always I wanted to know, like, you know what I'm saying? How do you reconcile that? Like, how do you think about that? Like, is he in the same category as us, or does he have this long separate position of being a racist, because he do have power to make rules or to vote against or whatever against like things for us, you know what I'm saying?
Clarence Thomas is not a racist. He's a race traitor. Clarence Thomas is not acting on black people's behalf or in black people's interest, nor is he acting on his own independent interest. So I'm a homeowner and I go get an attack dog. And if you come on my property, my dog will not only attack you, it will sacrifice its life to attack you. Is that dog a homeowner?
No.
Wait, what? But the dog is on the property. And not only is the dog on the property, the dog is able to fight to defend the property.
He's a sheepdog.
So black people.
I mean, he laid it out as far as how he was thinking, and it was just like,
yes, Clarence Thomas is extremely harmful. But in reality, if we really look at the reality of racist, that means he would be empowered to impose abuses on white people. A black racist means someone who is black and racist against whites. So if there was a white person, and white people have a lot of treasonous backstabbers in their race. So what's that guy that flew to Russia? Yo, Chad, who's the guy who released all those files and ran to Russia?
Edward Snowden,
right? Edward Snowden betrayed the American people. He betrayed the interest of America, right? Does that make him anti-racist or non-racist? Or is he racist against white people because he did that? Julian Assange too. Julian Assange is in the U.S. citizen though. So Assange is another race traitor. So all that to say is Clarence Thomas does not have the capacity to be racist. Racism requires institutional power. That's why Kwame Ture said, in order to be, Kwame Ture repeated it, but the original person, I think, was Chairman Fred Hampton. So I don't know who said it first, but both of them articulated this, that you can't be anti-capitalist without being anti-racist. And if you're going to be anti-racist, you must be anti-capitalist, because capitalism provides white people the power to be racist. Without capitalism and the resources and military might and institutional power that is granted to them by capitalism, then they could not be racist. Racism is the exploitation and abuse of a population based on their race. So in order for Clarence Thomas to be a racist or to conduct racism, he would have to build Black institutional power and then engage in exploitation and abuse of white people as a whole. And he has to build institutions, financial, social, cultural, economic, educational, military institutions that discriminate and abuse white people. When there is a Black person who is granted a title, power, or authority by white people to abuse Black people, that does not make them racist. That means they are a race traitor acting on behalf or serving the interest of racist. So Black people can serve the interest of racist. Black people can serve the agenda of white hegemony. But Black people unto themselves do not have the institutional or infrastructure or even the cultural assili to be racist. Any more than the dog. If you see the Black people and during the civil rights movement and they had the water hoses sprayed on them, was the water racist? When the dog was attacking, Bull O'Connor set dogs on our people to rend Black women's breasts and attack, and the dogs were trained to attack the genitals of Black people marching for basic human dignity and civil rights. Were the dogs racist? The agenda that Clarence Thomas is serving and advancing was not constructed by him or his people, does not serve the interest of him or his people, and is not sustained or validated by him or his people. So he is a lapdog. He is what they call fodder. Just like the Black soldiers who go over and that are going to get sent to northern Nigeria to attack other Black people. Are they colonizers or imperialists? That's why having a class analysis and understanding what role people play. He is a problem. He is a sellout. He is a traitor. He deserves all that comes with doing that kind of shit. But to call him racist, number one, it elevates him to a higher level that he's not worthy of and that he hasn't reached. Number one. Number two, it distorts our understanding of the larger system. That's when you get Black people, oh, my own people treated me worse than white people. So he's a traitor. But he doesn't have the capacity to be a racist, but he has the capacity to serve the interest of racist. And we have the capacity to call him out but we embrace traitors. We have an innate love for traitor. And again, that's a byproduct of low racial esteem. Can we hit a few questions and then get out of here? Because we're way over time.
Yep, let's do it because I'm hungry.
All right, we're gonna rapid fire this. What do you think about the rent freeze in New York and mayor is applying? I think the rent freeze is inadequate. There needs to be a rent reduction. I support a rent reduction and a debt jubilee.
Yeah, reduction and freeze that shit.
Yeah, so let's go further. That doesn't go far enough. Not that I reject it, appreciate it, but put some more on it. What was that thing? I appreciate it, but you got to put a little more on it. Yeah, what do you think about the decoloniality becoming mixed with therapy speak, stripped of political angle? It's not decoloniality. Colonization never happens to an individual. Now, an individual can be impacted by decoloniality, but decolonization is a collective atrocity that needs a collective solution. And an individual who is seeking therapy as a result of being victimized is valid. But it does not solve colonization. It just resolves that individual's or addresses that individual's suffering as a result. And I don't even like the term decoloniality. It's decolonization. I don't know what the hell why they got to change shit.
Hey, is therapy speak along the same like principles as academic speak? Is that like?
Well, yeah, I think if the terms apply, they apply. If they don't, they don't. But yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
I'm late, not sure, but have you gotten into Tyreek Cult versus Professor Smalls? You know, Professor Smalls, probably like 5-6 years ago, I saw him pop up on a flyer with Tariq Nasheed. And I got online talking reckless about the elder. Like, what the hell is going on? Why is he playing footsies with Tariq? And Professor Smalls called me himself and explained to me that he understood all of the shortcomings and flaws of the FBA movement and the ADOS movement, but his philosophy is you got to go to where the people are. So he was going to take his message to where the people was. And sometimes you got to go into dank, dark, funky spaces. So he was basically saying, I'm going to, like Jesus, when he went to the brothels and went into the streets, he was like, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm a black liberationist. I understand that these people and their group is highly flawed, but we got to keep communication and connection with our people. I didn't think that was a wise strategy and that it would fail. And I was right. And I will never say to our elder, I told you so, but I'll tell y'all that I told him so. Have you been following that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eye on it, man. And yeah, I don't think that was, I mean, ain't that how the mythical Jesus got killed?
But you know, hey, let me tell you something. Even when our elders go astray, man, I'll never forget the work that he's done. So I think he's earned the right to make some mistakes, and we give him grace and give him room for correction. So that's it. But if it is, but coping with something sometimes can perpetuate or sustain it. Sometimes you got to confront. I think we should orient therapy towards helping people to confront capitalism, not cope with it. But if it is, it is. Do I have an example of something I can do right now? Join a Pan-African revolutionary organization or start one. If you're black. If you're not black, I know by the hands, then you should join an anarcho-syndicalist, communist or revolutionary socialist organization to fight from within your community. Okay. But how do we get past the black bourgeoisie? We don't get past them, we get through them and stop trying to join them. You have any ideas on how to deal with the black bourgeoisie? I think this dude is an agent because he is the black bourgeoisie. His name is Reginald Pruitt.
Hey, this is
you are the black bourgeoisie. Get out of here. They in here trying. That was a setup. Bro,
like, Joe, you should recognize that he always on your feed pushing back against everything you say.
Yeah, he is a member. I got you this dude sitting on a golden toilet right now, watching this on his phone. Reginald, you ain't tricking nobody. You are the black bourgeoisie. He wants me to tell him how to get past him so he can go back to the boule and tell him what I said. Because ain't no black man by the name of Reginald Pruitt got less than 50 million in the bank right now. What's the point of having that name if you ain't got it like that? You know, that's like the black version of a DuPont. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you, James, man, coming on to give me moral support for this sensitive topic.
Likewise, bro. You know, hey, you know what I'm saying? We're going to rock and roll until it's over with, man.
Yeah. And scrolling across the bottom is the digital tin cup. Please put a little something in the digital tin cup to help sustain the BroDiallo show and help to grow the African World Order channel. Me, Skip, and maybe James. James is hard to lock down this Friday with Rational Radicals. So subscribe here.
Hey,
and then go over to AWO African World Order.
Now, I didn't used to work on Fridays, but now I work on Fridays and I start at 8. So I only got an hour, and that hour I'm traveling. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, there's somebody out here accusing me and Dr. Bald of telling black people to quit their jobs and join the revolution. So.
Man, look, that clown just said some other nonsense today, man.
Well, let me be on record saying, hey, brother, go to work. Don't quit your job. I'm now on record to invalidate what he said. So anyway, bro, I appreciate you. Till next time. I'm
Yep.
about to put on the outro music. Peace.
Peace.